F9's in startup.
So there we heard the call out. F9 is in startup, meaning that the flight computers have taken control of the launch countdown for Falcon 9. First and second stages are beginning to pressurize for launch. The white clouds that you see there is
LD is go for launch.
There we heard the final call. LD is go for launch. Everything looking good for an on-time liftoff today. Let's listen in on the final seconds of the countdown.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition, and we have liftoff.
Stage 1 propulsion nominal.
Vehicle's pitching downrange.
We're now 30 seconds into flight, and Falcon 9 is preparing to pass through max Q, which will happen at T plus 1 minute and 12 seconds. For those of you that might be unfamiliar with this term, max Q is when the vehicle will experience the greatest amount of
Vehicle is experiencing maximum dynamic pressure.
So there we heard the call out that the vehicle is passing through max Q. Again, that's the moment in which the vehicle experiences the greatest amount of dynamic pressure, greatest amount that it'll see throughout flight. Now in just a few seconds, we'll hear the call out that MVAC chill has begun. Just like we did on the M1D engines for first stage, we open the pre-valves between the propellant tanks and the engine cutoff coming up in 3 seconds.
And Miko.
Stage separation confirmed.
All right, there on your screen we have confirmation of stage separation as well as MVAC ignition.
Good MVAC ignition.
Great view there of planet Earth rotating behind the first stage, which is on the left-hand side of your screen, and the second stage on the right-hand side. So on the left-hand side, we can see those grid fins beginning to deploy into the landing position. Those grid fins will be utilized to help steer Falcon 9 for a precise landing on our drone ship, which, like I mentioned earlier, is positioned a couple hundred miles.
Nominal trajectory.
Nominal trajectory there for Falcon 9. As I said, those grid fins will be utilized to help guide and steer the booster back to the drone ship.
Bearing separation confirmed.
And confirmation that there you saw on your screen, the two fairing halves have separated, exposing the SXM-7 satellite. If you look closely, you can actually see the fairing disappearing from view in the background there. Currently at T plus 4 minutes and 3 seconds into flight, and we're performing the first of 2 planned MVAC burns. At stage separation, the first stage's velocity is about 2,200 meters per second, or 5,000 meters per hour, pretty fast. Once the first and second stages separate, that first stage is actually still moving at such a high velocity that it continues to raise its altitude as it coasts for a couple of minutes prior to starting its downward return back to Earth.
Acquisition of signal, Bermuda.
The next major milestone that we'll be able to see will be that first stage entry burn. For the entry burn, we relight the center engine, which we call E9, and then partway through the transition back through the Earth's atmosphere, we relight 2 more Merlin M1D engines, E1 and E5, to give us a total of 3 M1Ds, helping to slow the vehicle down as it passes back into the Earth's atmosphere. We're expecting that entry burn to begin in about 1 minute. Trajectory continues to look good. First stage is currently about 50 miles above the Earth's surface.
Stage 1 entry burn has started.
There we can see that the entry burn has begun. on the left-hand side of your screen for that first stage re-entry. Again, we start by igniting the center engine first, and then reignite 2 more engines to give us a total of 3 engines, allowing us to slow the vehicle down as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere.
Entry burn, shutdown.
And shutdown of those 3 engines for entry burn. Everything continued to looking nominal. And there we heard the call out of SECO. And tuning in for that landing on the left-hand side. And there's that view. Once again, this is the 7th flight and therefore the 7th landing of this particular booster, also marking the 69th successful recovery of a Falcon 9 first stage. The second stage vehicle has just entered its first coast phase, which will last about 18 minutes, and we'll light that MVAC engine for a second time shortly thereafter at T plus 26 minutes and 3 seconds. We're going to take a break here, and as always, if you're interested in keeping an eye on that second stage throughout its coast phase, we'll leave you with an animation. See you back here at T plus 25 minutes.
Acquisition of signal given.
Welcome back to our webcast for the Sirius XM SXM-7 mission. To recap what's happened so far this afternoon, we had a smooth liftoff at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. 2.5 minutes later, our first and second stages successfully separated. The first stage, which made its 7th flight today, landed on our drone ship. Just read the instructions. And the second stage completed its first burn, successfully inserting the SXM-7 and second stage into its planned parking orbit. Right now, we're coming up on the second burn of the upper stage engine here in just a couple of minutes. Currently, the flight computer is commanding the settling thrusters to turn on and off, releasing nitrogen gas that helps lightly push the stage, allowing propellant to stay at the bottom of the tank above the engine, right where we need it. We're expecting that second engine to deliver the highest power density of any commercial satellite on orbit. And it's intended to replace the XM3 satellite that is currently on orbit, about 20 seconds away from that payload deployment. There on your screen, we have a great shot of the SXM-7 satellite.
Payload separation confirmed.
And there on your screen, we can see that the payload has separated. We've received confirmation of that successful separation of the SXM-7 satellite from our second stage, which will be bringing our webcast today to a close. Thank you to Sirius XM for entrusting us with the SXM-7 satellite. This mission marked the 7th launch and landing for this particular Falcon 9 booster, SpaceX's 69th successful booster landing, and despite a crazy 2020, our 25th launch this year. To the range and FAA, we appreciate having your support for today's mission. And to all of our viewers, as always, thank you for joining us and have a great day.